So we worked on our junior collaborative at Jersey Public School using the idea of beading for meaning. We try to infuse humor at Jersey no matter what it is that we're doing. And in this case, many of us educators already know the term reading for meaning and how important that is, so we thought we would incorporate beading for meaning into that. So this is our journey. So at Jersey, there was a team of 6 of us, myself, Brianna, Kim Vito, Erica Lisi, Laura Rabb, Kristen Searle, and Leanne Pollock. We range from grades 3 to grade 6, and then myself, I actually teach grade 7 and grade 8 geography class, as well as half-time librarian. So this way we're able to reach all of our grades, really, if you think about it, from kindergarten all the way up to grade 8. So when we started, our inquiry question evolved. Usually when you're doing something like this, you hope that you kind of hit it in the first try, but it's never what happens. So after working hard and a lot of talk, we came up with, what is the impact of using authentic tasks on students' ability to represent their thinking using math models? The reason we're using math, as well as our FNMI, or First Nations Métis Inuit lens, is because math has been a really important journey at Jersey, and we want to make sure that whenever we're doing the FNMI work, we're not doing it in one-offs or in little mini units. We want to make sure that we're embedding things, because that is our ultimate goal. So as a team, we decided on the 4 C's model. So the 4 C's model is something we've been using at Jersey for several years now. For those of you who aren't familiar with the 4 C's model, we work in a co-planning, co-teaching, co-debriefing, and co-reflecting framework, and we do this together as a team. So once we go through this process, we work and we co-teach together, even with the 6 of us. We co-teach together with a small group of students that span the grades. So I like quotes. It always helps connect me to whatever it is that we're doing, especially if it's something that I know that I need to shift my worldview around or maybe come up with a big picture. So we just included this because it's a great way to share collaboration and to share the importance of collaboration. So as we all know already, the most valuable resource that all teachers have is each other. Without collaboration, our growth is limited to our own perspectives. Now, perspectives is a big piece when we're doing the work with FNMI, education and teaching. And it's not just about us as teachers, it's also about shifting perspectives with our kids through conversation and collaboration. So in the beginning, after we worked out our inquiry question, we really got kind of stuck when we first started working. Originally we thought, yay, we'll come at this from creation story lens, and we'll try to work the math piece into it. And instead what we found was it didn't feel right. So over about 3 hours of really trying to make it work, we decided that it just didn't feel right because it wasn't right. It wasn't authentic. It felt more like we were faking it versus coming up with a task that naturally embedded the FNMI teachings and the math together. So we shifted throughout all of our work, which we are told is what good teachers do. We threw everything out and we started again. But this time, because it felt right, the whole process was a lot faster and a lot more focused. So we decided to come at the beading through a beading task. And the reason we did that was because when we were at the very first professional learning opportunity that we had with our FNMI team at the school board, we realized that the most important thing that we learned and that we did was the one that we actually got to play with. So we were so fortunate to be able to actually do a beading activity. And during that activity, there was a whole lot of math talk, but it never felt like there was a lot of direct teacher traditional standing in front of us. But we walked away as a team with a lot of really powerful aha moments, and we thought, you know what? If this made sense for us as teachers, and if this made sense for us as people, this authentic connection between, in this case, beading and mathematics, then it's gonna work for the kids. And when we hit that piece, we knew this was the direction we were going to go. So, co-planning, the model for us, we use this to actually come up, first of all, to suss everything out to attack it, to have conversations, and then we actually went into building a lesson plan. So we talked about one of the things with inquiry that sometimes gets lost is people try to jump right into it, and often the curriculum gets lost. So we made sure that the curriculum expectations were our constant focus as we worked through. So as we got excited about something, or we tried something new, or we started to take a risk, we asked ourselves, are we still addressing the curriculum? Let's make sure that that's our anchor. So we went old school, and we started with chart paper and pretty markers because it's fun, and sometimes it's just a heck of a lot easier to write things down on paper because we're trying to not only get those ideas out quickly and work together as a team, but also use some new technology, like in this case, we've been using Google Docs. So we started here, we started hashing everything out, and like I said before, it went really quickly. We were excited. So we've just linked, if anybody wants to take a peek at our Google slide, we've linked all of our Google Docs into it. So as you go throughout, if there's anything you want to pick up, it's all already here. So this is our lesson plan. I'm not going to read the lesson plan to you. You can take a look at it yourself. There's actually, it's a lot. It's an inquiry-based 3-part lesson plan that we used. And again, we're trying to embed math. Actually, we're just trying to make it all move together with nothing feeling separate. We want it to be a natural connection. So the one thing that we really made sure that we focused on, because we're using this math lens, but it's important when you're looking at inquiry as well, is prompting. And making sure that you've thought about those prompts ahead of time, and that they're planned prompts and you're anticipating student responses. However, it's interesting, for us it was interesting to note that as we went through, we had this great set of prompts, but believe it or not, we actually didn't really need them. And I'll address that in a bit. So here are our prompts. We put a lot of time into this. Anyone who's teaching math right now with the problem-solving model knows that this is really important. Also, in terms of inquiry, those open-ended questions and those prompts are a really important part of the teaching and the learning. And planning it, not just kind of winging it, planning it and thinking about it ahead of time. However, as we went through, we found that the kids were giving us so much valuable information, so many connections, so many cross-curricular connections, not just math, not just the FNMI work, regardless of our prompting. So we went into it as co-teachers. Actually, we went into it, all 6 of us. We were concerned that the kids would be overwhelmed, but they actually, because we were beading too and we were touching things as well, it just became, well, really, it became a beading circle. It was a really natural, comfortable, safe place to do the learning and really the teaching. I don't like to say teaching, I would say learning, because for us it was learning as well. And we were learning so much from the kids at the same time. So here's what we did. We presented a small group of students with our beading activity. For us, that was the authentic task. We gave them a little bit of prior knowledge and set the context for them using a fantastic video called Spirit Seeds. What we loved the most about that, and that's in here as well, is that it has male beaders. So it's not just a girl activity, but it has these really strong, and I have to say, cool looking guys that we were hoping that our kids could connect to, because we intentionally made our group male and female. We didn't want this just to be what girls do. And really, in First Nations culture, it's not just what girls do. So we want to make sure that we keep it authentic. And this is the video here, and we've provided a link in here, but it's something you can always Google or YouTube. So the best part about this video is the theme throughout it is I bead because. So we were hoping that after the kids watch this, that they would start to make connections to, why do we bead? Why do we as people bead? Why might that be a choice that we make? So our original question was, how many? So how many beads will you need? We kept it nice and open-ended, authentic tasks, and we provided them with some artifacts so that they could actually touch. Because again, we're trying to keep this real. We want this to be real. We don't want this to be a staged situation. We want it to be authentic. So this is something that we used when we were teachers as a part of the workshop. So we just thought, hey, it works. Of course, our team has already put the thought into it, so let's use it. So how many beads do you need? The kids started blowing our minds right from the beginning. So before we even said anything, we planned all these really rich prompts, and we were hoping that with guiding, they would get, some math out of it and maybe make some connections. Instead, they showed us that we didn't need to do that. In fact, they had a lot to say. And if we just let them talk and gave them opportunities to do it in a safe place, magic happened. And we were completely amazed by what they did. So just looking at the artifacts, the kids actually started talking. Hey, my mom took me to a museum once, and I saw this, and I heard they're really expensive. And one of our students is from a reserve. She's only been away from home for 2 years now. And she did a lot of talk about the value of the beads and the value of the work and how important it was to her culture. And then the kids asked her questions, and the dialogue just happened really, really naturally. But we still had that math, those curriculum expectations in the back of our mind. We had to make sure we were anchoring it to that. So we handed the kids, again, with that question, how many beads will you need? We never once said, we're going to teach you a math lesson. But it was interesting because the kids made the connections, and they said things like, oh, this is more fun than math. They also said things like, hey, you tricked us. This is really math. So while they were making the math connections, they were still having fun, but at no point in time did they feel that pressure. And the research is showing, and a lot of our professional development is doing a lot of talk around mental health and math, and a lot of talk around anxiety and math anxiety. And we felt in our reflections that this hands-on, around a table, working together really helped bring down that anxiety. So these are just some examples of how our kids were using different strategies and coming in at different entry points. So for example, we had one student who was still counting by ones, and she was grouping, and we had other students who were using arrays. And they had different names for their strategies that they'd be doing in their classrooms, but they had all sorts of different entry points to come from. And another example, so you can see that they're coming in at all different points, but the big message and the big picture is still the same. So we have a little video clip here. We're not going to play it today just because we found one of our next steps as a school is we need a table mic, so that's the audio's not so great. However, this is a clip where this student here is talking about how his anxiety around beading is actually prompting him to use strategies to persevere. So he does a lot of talk about, I'm feeling really stressed. He actually sewed himself into the needle, which stressed him out a little bit because his whole sweater was sewn, and then he had beads going through his sweater. So fine motor wasn't easy for him, which was something that we worried about and wondered about. But he didn't quit, and we really didn't give him the opportunity to quit. And at no point in time did we take the needle away from him, for example. We just talked to him about what strategies are you using right now? How are you feeling? And he was really, really articulate about, oh yeah, well, I'm just gonna take a break. And he stretched and he stood up a little bit, but he sat back down because he wanted to finish. It felt good to him. So we also, just for assessment purposes, because we want to make sure we're anchoring ourselves constantly to the curriculum, we've created a ticket out the door, and this ticket out the door is what led to our beading circles that we've started at Jersey as well. So we just created another authentic problem for those kids, but now they have the prior knowledge and the connections. So this one is, we want to start a beading club at Jersey. How would you show our new members how to quickly figure out how many beads they'll need to make a bracelet? So they completed this task, and we're still in the process of it right now because they're still building. Some of them are still finishing off their bracelets, but they're going to be our student leaders for our beading circles. So some of the things that we noticed. Well, it was pretty obvious that the kids were engaged, and so were the teachers, which was really, really cool. They were saying things, we were getting excited, they said more things. There was a lot of like, oh my gosh, did you hear that? Which was really, really fun and really important. So they felt our energy as much as we felt theirs. We were amazed by how articulate they were and all the different connections that they were making. So what we thought might happen was that we'd have to create the connections. Instead, what happened is they gave us connections we hadn't even thought of. They articulated that the beading process made them feel calm. It made them feel focused. They, like I said before, they very naturally made connections to the task itself, made math connections to the task itself, as well as First Nations, Métis, Inuit connections and personal connections too. A really cool part was they were really, really impressed and proud of themselves and the fruits of their own labor. They actually got to see that what they were doing was turning into something, and it was something that they were proud of. So what we want to make sure that we continue at Jersey is that we have some big dreams and some big goals, but through some of the observations that we made, we want to make sure that these key things are happening. So in our math, we want to make sure that, as with this activity, that our tasks are authentic, that they're engaging, and the one piece we learned the most is that kids can make those connections if you give them the opportunity to do so. So we want to make sure we continue to do that. The activity itself allowed for a variety of entry points. So we had the one student who was counting by ones, and we had another student who was doing math that I was having difficulty understanding, but he was using arrays, for example, primary teacher here. But it was still the same task, so you couldn't actually, the kids couldn't tell that one person was maybe not at the same entry point as another person, because they were encouraged to use different strategies. Use your own strategies, use what works for you. And for us, differentiation is really, really key to good teaching and good learning. Without that piece, we have a lot of behaviors in our classrooms, and we want to make sure that all kids feel honored, all kids feel respected, all kids feel safe, and the easiest way that we found that you do that is through differentiation. A really cool observation that happened, and again, one of the things that we couldn't predict, was the super cool math talk that was taking place just while the kids were beading. And this was prior to them saying, "You tricked us, this is really math." It was really, really neat to just listen to the way they were making the connections, listen to them talking about their different strategies, yet at no point in time we said, "Here's your math lesson, these are the math skills I want you to do." Perspective. It was cool to hear and important to hear kids talk about different perspectives. And the mental health piece came into play through the perspectives, because one of our students who is from reserve, she really got emotional at one point in time. And when she started to cry, so we needed to give her a moment to kind of get herself together. When we came to her, and again, this is in a very informal table circle, we said, "Are you okay? Do you need to talk?" And she said, no, I'm okay. It just feels like I've gone home." And it's really, really important that we make sure that all of our students have those opportunities to feel like they have a voice, to feel honored, to have an opportunity to feel pride, and to feel respected. And when she said that, the other students around the table chimed in too. "Oh, I know what you mean, this one time." And it was really great because she pulled herself back together, and the other kids respected her and gave her the space that she needed. We didn't say anything. We let the kids work through that process. And it just went to show that even though they were learning and participating in this activity, they were still growing and stretching as mathematicians, but also as human beings. The therapeutic component for us was really big. What we're finding is that the more hands-on the tasks are for our students, the more relaxed and focused they are. And one thing that we've kind of talked about and thought about is the link between hands-on activities and minds-on and mindfulness opportunities. Chances where you get to actually stay still because you don't want to prick yourself with a needle, for example, and you have to actually focus, so you get to block out the rest of the world. These are just, so reflecting, for anyone who's done the 4Cs process, reflecting is ongoing, especially if you're in a team as big as ours. So these are just some of the strategies we were kind of putting down while we were even working today. So this is just a list of goals and hopes and dreams that we have for Jersey. But these are our next steps. So we have 6 sections that we really like to work on. So the first one is professional development. So simply put, we want more. So we want, as a team and as a school, to feel confident in anything that we do. And in this case, we just like more opportunities to explore the learning and to explore perspectives in terms of FNMI education and teachings, so that we feel confident and so that when we go to share, we're coming from an authentic place. We're also talking about teacher resources, because all teachers like stuff. So we just want to, we'd like to get our hands on more practical resources, friendly resources, and as ambitious as we are, we figure if we can't find it, we'd like to make it. What that looks like, we're not sure, but it's one of the goals that we have. Another one is sharing our learning with our colleagues. So often as teachers, we kind of find ourselves separated from everybody else, but we want to make sure that everything we're learning and everything that we're doing, we're sharing with our staff and sharing with the people around us who want to know more, because it's really, really important to us and we're really passionate about it. Originally, it wasn't necessarily a passion, it was more of an interest and a risk that we wanted to take and try something new, but it's really cool because at the end of it, I can very confidently say that for everyone on the team, it's become a passion. We want to continue with beading circles and activities that are authentic and relevant to our kids, but while we do this, we want to make sure that we're not doing it as a one-off or as a unit or as a theme. We want to make sure that it's constantly authentic, that it never comes off as tokenism. We want to make sure that we're respecting our students and we're respecting that we're just respecting being human beings. And we're respecting that we're going to make sure that whatever we do with knowledge and we do from a good place. And when we don't know the answer or don't feel confident, we seek out the resources to do so properly. So these are our big giant goals. One of them is embedding FNMI teachings into our teaching practice, not just at Jersey, but all across Canada. We believe that it belongs, that it's a big part of our history. We believe that by embedding FNMI teachings, it works for all students. It's not just about teaching First Nations, Métis, Inuit history, that it's about using wonderful teaching practice that addresses mental health, that can be used in any way and can be used effectively when we're provided with the skills to do so. So we want to continue to pursue that. And finally, and most gigantically, we want to pursue the decolonization of education. Yes, we know this is not going to be happening tomorrow or really next year, but you got to start somewhere. So this is our ultimate goal. We do not want to come at it from a place of anti-colonization. We want to come at it from a place of decolonization. We don't want to be the group that is saying, this was bad, it's not okay, but I'm not responsible, so I don't really have to do anything. We want to be the group that says, this is still not okay. This affects all of our students when we look at it from any lens, but particularly from an equity lens. This is not okay. The decolonization of education is critical to student success. And it's time we stop saying that we're not responsible. It's time to stop being, as Susan Dion says, the perfect stranger. We need to step away from that, and we need to take action and do something. And what better way to do it than to start like this? So, thank you.